Good morning, ladies and gents, and I guess I should get back to my chat stream instead of staring at Will Wheaton's Twitter. They're interesting people, and there are times and places to pay attention to them. That was not one of them, because I've got a stream. I have to make things, do gaming stuff. Also, why is my scene so empty? Ugh. I haven't even loaded my scene. That's how you guys know I'm slacking. Specifically when... yeah. When nothing's loaded up. Whoopsies. Don't mind me. So, when I say world work, right here, there we go. I need to just figure out where things are on my screen so I can highlight them as I need to. But essentially, when I say world work, I'm probably more succinct in saying that I need to figure out how to make the terrain work. So one thing I'm going to start with this morning is the not so fun task of breaking a single file into a bunch of little 3D model files. A while back I picked up of course I have to remember where I put those files. A while back I picked up a 3D model pack made by BitGem. They have some really good low poly hand painted textures that I really liked, and I liked them so much I paid for them, which is great. I love supporting folks who, you know, make good content. But the other thing is that, of course now I can't, oh there it is. The other thing though is that all the bits and pieces, oh never mind, it looks like they came in their own files. Let's just crack one of these open real quick. That's not exactly what I want. I at least need these things to be centered. Let's center this, because that seems silly to leave it all the way out there. Gosh. Alright. It has been so long. There we go. I was about to say, I better remember how to use this. It would be really silly if I did not. Okay, so now I just have to pick out the exact 3D models I need to use, because doing this to all of them, while interesting, I'm sure for you guys on the stream, I probably need to actually figure out how to get some of these that I want specifically into my game. So it's nice and all that I was able to find the rock. I'm actually gonna, I'll save it out. If I just hit save, okay. And yesterday I installed a plugin that actually allows me to, let's see, new, there we go. It allows me to take Blender files and dump them right into Unity and not have the 90-degree offset, which is awesome, because that's been one of the major reasons I've never really wanted to use Blender directly. I've always exported back out to FBX because A, everybody reads FBX. Like, that's just kind of how it is. And secondly, that 90-degree turn was such a pain in the ass, I didn't even want to deal with it. I just kind of ignored it if possible. Floor variability. So this is the one I'm not too sure about, and I need to figure out, because the floor is obviously going to be very important. Floor of stone, floor 0, and floor 1. So that does not seem like enough. 1 and 2 for the floor. I need to figure out what pieces do what. Where's the main one? So this is the entire thing in one place, and you can kind of see we've got houses, and without texturing turned on, I actually have somewhat difficult time seeing what is what. Let's see. There's got to be a better way to view these. Downloads, yeah, models. Like, even if all I need is just a preview of some kind, and I would be fine. Let's try cracking it open in Visual Studio. Maybe that'll help. for those who don't know, Visual Studio does have a 3D viewer. It's kind of weird. Definitely takes some getting used to. Here we go. This is what I was kind of looking for here. Except that the ones I care about, these, are absolutely untextured. Okay, but they do use the floor variability images, so I'm going to guess that I just have a forwards, backwards, left, right, and filled, and these are path-based. Here's one without path, so that's one I definitely want to export. So this one, probably these. I really wish I could tell what these were, but alas, alack, I cannot. Well, I'm just going to take out the floor variability ones, make sure that they work, and dump them out to Blender, and Blender will be able to sort them for me. And this is the not so interesting part of the night, where I say night, it's morning. Even though it's dark, it is morning. I'm actually up at a decent hour in the morning. That's the only difference. Not normally up this morning, but work called in, said I need to get there a little earlier than usual, and that's fine. Not the end of the world, just means that just means something's probably gone wrong or somebody can't access our system, and therefore they need a little help getting things up and running. I think that's what this was called. If not, whatever. I'm just going to save out a number of these and see what Unity thinks. So, models. Okay, so the one thing here is that I need to grab the textures as well, because it doesn't know where the textures are. Which is fine. Textures. You are the atlas for these things. So you're going to go in textures. Oh, actually, I already have a copy of the texture, so I just need to attach the material to it. And I should be good. Albedo, sure. I mean, that's not the best. No smoothness. Because trees and ground and all that should have no smoothness attached to it. Honestly, this shader is incredibly overkill for what, for my needs, at least. I'm just going to use this for each of these and then drag the models out and see what I get. So the rock makes sense. It actually, that looks pretty. Whoa. I also see that I've got some of my settings a little high, but you can see, yeah, that looks really nice. That actually is very pretty. The one I'm more interested in is the one that's not working, apparently. Wait, no, let's try it again. No. Definitely using the wrong texture here. Floor variability 1A. Makes me wonder if it uses a very specific swatch or something, or if it uses like this ground texture. Let's try the ground texture. You go in here. Yeah, so this is more what I'm looking for, and more what I'm hoping this thing will use. We'll see if that's actually the case, but let's see. Models, floor. Hey, okay, that is what I was looking for. That is definitely what I wanted. God, that thing's tiny. Or at least my sensitivity is really high, so I'm just going to burn some of my sensitivity. Actually, the other way to do it is just, I don't like doing this, but there we go. Cool, so this is definitely what I'm looking for. I need to get a bunch of these into the system, and then what I think I want to do is go through and clean them all up at the same time. Kind of doing a batch process with each of these will keep my brain from exploding with all the silly stuff going on. Alright, so there's one of them. How many more do we have? Downloads, models. Terrain alternative system. Okay, so that was just 0, I think. So I think I just need to go for 1 and keep going down the list. That or try this tile ground version 2, but I have a feeling that that's everything wrapped up into 1. Or it's just an empty file. Sorry, phone alarm. This is the time I normally wake up and start prepping for the stream. It is now 7 a.m. PST. Not a bad time to be awake. You get to hear all the birds. It's nice and quiet in the house. All kinds of lovely things to look forwards to. Okay, so there's 0, and that's the one I just did. I really wish I could just like grab more than one and then just like batch export. Actually, if these are all centered, it looks like they are, so you know what? I'm not even gonna do the... I mean, part of me wants to do the exports because I like having things in Blender files, but at the same time, for the sake of saving you and my sanity today, I think I'm just gonna move them over, and I will convert these suckers when I need them. I think that's how I'm gonna do this. Here we go. You through you. Let's see here. Just gonna rip myself down to desktop and then accidentally close everything that I care about. Or not close, but at least hide. There we go. Oh my god, the spammers are strong today. Bunch of people getting caught by the gold mine garbage. As far as I know, the only thing they're mining, unfortunately, is your information, and they're probably using it to just spam the heck out of the rest of us. I really wish I could get Unity to ignore Blend 1 files. So Blender does this thing where it likes to back up files, and when it backs them up to .blend1 and .blend2, which then, of course, leaves us in this silly spot where it has files of slightly different name, and it's enough for Unity to think that they are different files that require their own processing. And even though they're simply backups that can probably be safely ignored, it's how it goes. So let's see, I could probably nuke the old one and put this one back into place and hope that this works. Can't I write an asset processor to filter those? Yeah, I could. I should, honestly, in the long term. There's nothing to really process, though, and so asset processors, to me, are something that require work, as opposed to something that should be filtered. I could go through and dunk an asset processor on all of it, but honestly, I just kind of wish they got ignored. Like, I could. You're right. It definitely would not be that hard. Okay, let's see here. Things I need to do to all of these models. They have no animation rig, so that needs to get handled. They also have... Interesting. One of them is just like dead texture. What are you using? Okay, you are using this random number 16. Okay. Don't know why you're using a different asset from everyone else, but whatever. For now, we'll see. Okay, what are you, Mr. 16? Okay, you are important, so... Where are you? No, this is floor variability 16, as opposed to... And... Oh, okay, this is the whole thing? Interesting. I'm just going to nuke that one for now. Don't care about it. Wumbo, yeah, I can read what you wrote. Repeating it doesn't really help a ton. But did I finish the command line program? No. That is incredibly boring for people on the stream, as it turns out. And so I'm doing what I can to make this a little more interesting in the meantime. Specifically, working on a project that has graphic elements and would hopefully be more interesting to you guys to see. Because honestly, I want to work on something that's interesting for you and me. Otherwise, I sit here and work, and then the viewers just kind of come and go, as it seems to have been the case. Read write enabled. No need to read write. This is going to be some of the simplest stuff, so there's no need for us to do any of that. Let's see. Import, calculate, swap UVs. Okay, so all this stuff looks pretty good. We're not importing the animation on all, 16 of these? Because there are no animations. Alright, so it looks pretty good. So that's one part of the equation. Yeah, Morphix is right. And that was the big thing, was a lot of the components were purely under the hood work. So, for example, the dir command was going to end up being about probably 500-ish lines by the time everything is said and done, with all of its command line arguments and the way everything is handled. And the way that showed itself, that 500 lines of code, which is a lot, excuse me, is that it showed itself by being a little more feature complete. And that was it, right? The fact that I typed dir and more happened is not exactly something that people find interesting, nor folks, want to see streamed, so to speak. So the one thing I find really interesting about this asset pack is that if I look at this and pull this to 0, 0, it actually matches incredibly well with the existing grid. If I shift it if I shift it 1 unit, you'll note this is a pretty good match with what I'm hunting for. The ground works out pretty friggin' well. Now, of course, it's got this sheen to it because I'm using a standard shader. I really don't like that. Let's see if we can get something a little more. I don't know if unlit is the way to go. That's the funny part, is I don't like the standard shader, but I also don't like the unlit so much. Let's see. I love how much fuller the coloring is on an unlit like this. You can kind of see that in comparison between the unlit and the standard kind of whitewashes it slightly. And even if we drop the smoothness to 0, it just doesn't, it's still messing with it somehow. It doesn't have any depth to the color, as opposed to I switch to unlit and suddenly it's just the colors are deeper, everything looks better. I don't know why or how that works, but it is the case, unfortunately. Mobile diffuse, maybe. That would be another way to go, is just... Mobile diffuse looks pretty friggin' good, too. Honestly, unlit is one of the... I guess unlit can't receive shadows, I don't think. Let's try dunking a tree in here and see if that plays any nicer. Bush trees. Where are my trees? Floor with wall. I'll have to look into some of these at some point. But no, for now we are hunting wild trees. Alright, cool. Let's just dunk this in here. Whoa. Tree, come back here. Okay, so first off, this tree is friggin' monstrous. I forgot that some of the trees in the pack are literally huge. Also, the other thing to note, Unity seems to be having some rendering problems with it. If you check out these polygons here, okay, here's the edge of the tree, and as I rotate around, note how some of them continue to be visible despite being completely occluded. Something is going very wrong with Unity right now, if that is the default behavior of this. And I'm actually going to crank some things into the off position to see if it helps at all. But I don't think it will, unfortunately, which means that something is going very wrong with this object. Yeah, look at that. It's just... Some of these are not being processed correctly. Unity, what are you doing? That's so bizarre. Alright, let's dump a bunch of the other trees in as well. Maybe some of these will have better... They'll have a better look to them. And you'll note I'm making a mess of my models folder. I'll come through and clean this up later. Also, apparently this is all that makes up tree 5 and 6. And all of the major trees? Where are my leaves? Are the leaves seriously a separate model? Because that seems really silly. Okay, yeah, let's stop making a mess of our models folder. Just for a moment. Yeah, I'll just call it ground for now. I'll figure out a better... Either I'll name it better later, or... we'll figure something else that I like more. But... I can't believe I have to put these together by hand. That would be really silly if that actually is the case. Of course. Computer, why do you do this to me? Especially while I'm on stream, of all things. Okay. 7, 10, 9, that. We just gotta get all the leaves. I'm gonna hop into the trees folder, dump these in place too. And hey, look, it's the trees, or it's the leaves for trees. Yeah, God, even that doesn't look right. Okay, these shaders are all over the place, and this is gonna drive me wild until I can fix it. And what's funny is, I haven't even started using them yet, and it's already driving me crazy. I can't even see the trees, and already their shaders are driving me bonkers. Okay, let's fix this sucker. Also, that is a huge tree. I didn't realize how large these things were until, well, until I exported it and was like, oh, hey, that's monstrous. Leaves, where are you? So, okay, you can see some problems with the standard shader here. You can kind of see some major issues. Specifically that the alpha here isn't being correctly handled. Yeah, no. Better, although I'm not sure I like using tree creator shaders. They've always been a little iffy. Okay, that looks better. And this, that's still the unlit transparent, and as I suspected, it's not actually throwing a shadow. You'll see if we drag this around that there's no shadow being drawn here, which makes me curious. I mean, honestly, maybe the trunk shouldn't have a shadow, because the leaves are going to always be larger than the rest of it. So, oh, but this entire thing is one giant shader. Ooh. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so here's the point where using diffuse doesn't quite work. It's close, but not quite. No, I need a transparent shader for this, and I have a feeling that mobile is not going to have a transparent shader that works terribly well. Because here's our other option, which, no, that's not going to fly at all. If I use cutout mode, it looks a little better, but you note it's still that ugly washed out color. I really don't like that. Diffuse fast. Okay, these don't have transparent. Okay, transparent is its own thing. So that looks better. Wait, no it doesn't. Oh god, the top of the tree. What is going on? I have a feeling there are assumptions being made by these shaders that I have no idea about. There we go. That's what I was hunting for. Okay, I needed a cutout shader. The wording is a little crazy, but it's how it goes. So essentially what a cutout shader does, and it's kind of difficult to see, but any point where the alpha transitions between two values that are given by the shader, that is when it proceeds to draw or essentially remove the pixel from the graphics pipeline. So when it's doing the actual skinning part of the 3D model, that is when it starts removing pixels for transparency's sake. And if you want to see like this thing grow or shrink a little, I can play with the alpha cutoff. So here's an alpha of 0, and then if we turn it up slightly, you see most of that goes away, but there's kind of that green edge. And the point of cutout shaders is you can sit here and toy with it until you get something closer to what you're going for. So if I wanted this to be really picky, I could turn it all the way up. Or what is more likely is that I don't want it to be quite so picky. 0.5 was actually a nice looking value. And suddenly we have a tree. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that it seems as if, and I should just switch all my shaders to this probably. Huh, I'm not seeing the shadow actually fall on this piece. There we go. There's our shadow. Okay, so I just have to use the same shader for every piece of the puzzle here, and we're fine. Can I do a standard diffused? Yes. Yes, I can. Nice. Okay. Whew. Got the pieces I need. Okay, so we've got this view of how we want the world to look, right? And when we when we wander around using this view, objects exist clearly enough. Right now, the grid that I use, and I use quotation marks on grid, is little more than just spacing. I tell the players, look, when you take a step forwards, you always walk the same distance, and that kind of creates a grid for us. But eventually, we're going to actually want something a little more hand-authored in order to better control where the party can move when it takes its step forward, left or right, or to also control if you can walk in a certain direction, if you can go forwards, left or right. Sorry, the materials are something that it's not really bothering me, so to speak, but it is something I wanted to fix very quickly. What was that? That was a legacy transparent cutoff diffuse, because that's not a mouthful. Legacy transparent cutout diffuse. And let's just use it for this one too, just in case. Actually, you know what? No. That can go away. For some reason, I can't drag one of these into the scene. Weird. Alright. I also need a prefab folder, because at this point, I've now got prefabs that I require use of. Specifically, this tree and its leaves are a prefab. Even though technically it's two objects, we can group them up as one and then use that file in the future to specify when we want this tree. And if we do anything to the prefab, that ends up in the final product, which is nice. The only thing is that that tree was monstrous. All the trees were kind of monstrous. So I'm actually going to hop into the models again and shave down their size just by a bit. Alright, alright. I know I can't save things in file mode. Alright. Okay, that... I don't know if that actually kicked in or not. Let's see here. Let's try it once more and see if this thing changes size. It should kick in immediately. Okay, it is. Good, 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 good. I just wanted to make sure this tree, and this is crazy, this tree was twice as tall before I made this change. Like, that was a huge tree. Oh well, Granted, this is all low poly art meant to be viewed, I think, from like an angle like this. So it's not exactly like, it's not exactly like I'm using this from the correct angle. If you start to look at it from the underside, it doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't look great either. Then again, it's not like this is final. This is something that I just happen to have copies of that I'm going to use here and there in the meantime, and then we'll figure out once we're done how we actually want things to look. So, we need finer control of this grid, and the grid essentially needs to be little more than game object points that are interconnected by just by probably references to each other. Because honestly, that's all we really need in place to keep these organized. It seems like doing anything more is either overkill on one side, because you end up with an automated system that needs to be really complex in order to handle the world, or you end up with something that is not complex enough, and then I have to hand tweak it each time it runs, and that's not something I really want to do either. I'm happier hand generating the content than I am trying to write something to automate it and then tweaking on top of that. Yes, we could write something probably eventually that's powerful enough to just handle it for us, but that's a decent amount of work that I really don't want to do right now. Let's see here. I'm just kind of generating a bit of terrain by hand, because why not? I just want to have a decent kind of area to work with at bare minimum, so my work can make a little sense to me when I walk around and I see, okay, here's tree. Oh gosh, okay, tree is now incredibly short. I wonder how high up my camera is, because that will definitely change. Let's see, party, main camera. Okay, so the main camera is 1.6 units up. Remember, I said that I wanted a unit to be a meter in this game. So a game unit, or a unity unit, is a in-game meter. So the party is actually at the right height. It turns out I've just shortened the trees way too much. I should not have actually dropped their scale that much. Donk. There we go. There we go. That looks actually much better. From the player's point of view, that is now what I would call decent. Cool. Alright, let's see here. So we've got our terrain, and we've got some of the idea of what we want to do for the grid here. Specifically, we need to go so far as to make points in a world, and then we need to start attaching them to one another. You'll note that this is kind of what I currently have set up. There are just these kind of random grid squares that are nice, but they don't actually help me in terms of getting things organized in a fashion in which I can edit them. That's the big thing. None of these are editable. Even though I have all these grid squares, I can't actually click on them or interact with them. So that needs to change. I don't know if I'll have enough time to make all the changes I want to today to this, but we'll see what we can get done. Specifically, the modifications to the grid are something that have to happen. Otherwise, it'll get a little monotonous, probably. So I'm going to nuke the current draw gizmos call. And I don't mind just deleting code like this, because I have things sitting inside of my my source repository, so if I do something terrible or wrong, it's not going to hurt that much. So the thing to know about the grid is that I guess I'll need some kind of get. I need a bunch of public. The only thing that this is just a bunch of public functions. Mostly accessors to various functions that I'll need access to. So, for example, I will want get node position, where, how do I do this? I probably will have a current node or I guess the other thing I could do, instead of having a grid, I could have a grid node. That actually might be the way to go. You know what? Let's do that. So, okay, grid, bugger off. Yes, I know. No, don't save changes. Cool. Create a new C# script that's going to be a grid node. And we're going to just, instead of doing the whole grid as one script, we're actually going to take a step down and say, okay, we want all the nodes to be taken care of. Specifically, grid node. I'll call these links because it's very, very true of what these things are. Also, do I want them? Yeah, I want them separate. North, let's see. Northeast, west, and south. Cool. So there's our links. These should definitely not be doing anything per frame. That would be a terrible thing for us if they did. And in fact, I don't even really want them to have anything aside from the information. We're just encoding information into these. The only thing I want is that this doesn't even need to be public. Top of the morning to you, smooth dog. I don't know why I felt the need to say things in that style, but I guess that's how it goes. I have an terrible Irish accent at that. On draw gizmos, probably selected is the better way to go. And all I'm gonna do is draw a line from each of my links. So I'm gonna say my north link, I guess from my position to the north link's position. And I'm just going to do this. Whoop. Fingers, are you on the right keys? Because those lines of code are disappearing awfully fast. Copy. There we go. Paste, paste, paste. There we go. So, north, east, south, and west. There we go. I'm just curious. Can I draw? Is there a draw arrow? No, there isn't. Can I change the color of things? Yes. Okay. I really wish there were a better way to handle color changes and stuff like that, because obviously I now have to do, okay, I need to figure out the cardinal coordinate. Let's see. Coordinates and their colors. There we go. Red, orange, yellow, and green. Really? Oh, those are HSV colors. I don't know. I guess I could make red, green. I just want each of these colored so I know who is what direction. Red, green, blue, and I don't know, yellow. That should be different enough that I can figure out what's going on here. And this is going to be a grid node. specifically because now I'm no longer doing a random step forwards. I'm actually just changing my position to the new node's position. So this changes how our movement works a little bit as well. It's not just if I press the key, do something. It's if I press the key and my current node is of the correct position. Now this is the one thing I need to think about because I didn't really consider this. Oh, I know. I'll write a little helper function for myself for this, because I will need it in a bunch of places anyway. And what I'm going to do... let's see. I'm not sure this is the best way to do it, but for now... I'm just going to make an enum that does a lot of the hard work for me. And we're going to have a direction we are facing. Let's see here. Each time we turn, it should be obvious enough what needs to happen. The direction facing should essentially increment. Now I know we can't just like, oh, I can just increment? Interesting. Okay. I'm kind of curious what happens if I walk off the end of this. So let's just check that real quick. So the party should now have, come on. Oh, there's an unexpected symbol somewhere in my code. Specifically, I wrote and then didn't put anything after the and. Got it. These lines of code are now completely unhelpful, so let's get rid of those too. There we go. Okay, so our direction facing north, east, southwest, and then blank. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Specifically because we can easily walk off the edge of this in any direction. Yeah, it seems bizarre because it allows us to do plus plus and increment the direction, but it doesn't allow us to use a modulus on it. So it can act like an integer, but it isn't an integer. That's kind of goofy that it allows us to do such a thing. Yeah, I mean, I could cast it to int and cast it back. That's kind of ugly. That is actually incredibly ugly. I'd really rather not do that. The whole strength of enumerations is that within an enumeration, you should be able to do everything you need. Get names, get underlying type, get values, is defined, parse. Yeah, these aren't going to help. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I might have to do the cast int and then cast back. I'm not a big fan of it, but sometimes that's what needs to get done. So we're going to cast it to int, we'll do the math on it, and then we'll cast it back. So take note of this ugliness. Modulus doesn't give float, Cybertech. I don't know what you're talking about there. Alright, we'll need it on this side as well. Direction. So we're going to remove one, and instead of just, let's see, we essentially need an if statement here, unfortunately. If if this is less than 0. Oh, actually, the upside would be, I don't need that cast, because I can say, if it's less than 0, oh, I will need the cast eventually. Direction dot. If you walk off the end, then I need to just cycle all the way back around. Otherwise, we're going to directionify ugh. Here we go. Definitely not a huge fan of this. Jalapenos Bud, yes, technically enum is an int, but because it has extra class features on top of it, it doesn't act entirely like an int. Alright. Let's do this again, because I wasn't watching when I started. So if I rotate, I'm facing north, so now I should turn myself east, and then south and west, and then north again. And you'll note that I can wrap all the way around. Cool. And if I go the other way, that also works. Good. Good, good, good. Because otherwise, this is going to get really messy real quick. So what I need is a helper who is going to transform my direction based on my current face, my current direction. So get relative direction is essentially some private function that takes our current facing and moves us forwards, not just in that direction, but say I want to strafe left or right, I'll have to handle that eventually. Maybe I won't do that now, actually, come to think of it. Let's see. I'm facing a certain direction, and I say I wish to move that way. We'll see. So if I'm facing a direction and I hit forwards, and the grid node I'm currently attached to, this is where some helper functions here are going to be helpful. Maybe not helper functions in so much as public functions. All right. Thank you. All right, so trying to think of an easy way to do this. So I actually kind of think direction should not live within party, but should actually live in the grid node. I'm not sure if that makes more sense or not. I'm going to have to think about this a little more. But for now, we can just put it outside into the namespace and leave it there. If dir equals north, east, easy link, not quite what I meant to type. South, not the most interesting code I've ever written, but you know what? Sometimes you just have to write stuff to get it done. North, east, south, and west. Yeah, there we go. So that'll make it easier, because all I have to do now is say the grid node get next node, and then the direction that we're facing. Excuse me. I'm just going to shift this out so I'm not calling it multiple times. I would rather call something once than have a bunch of if statements floating around. So we say our grid node reference is now the possible next node, and we set our position to it. That's the big part. I am not a fan of using switch. I honestly should be a bigger fan of using switch. Sometimes I have trouble wrapping my head around why the switch statement works as it does, or why people like how it works. I've seen it get abused a lot, and so that's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Honestly, it shouldn't be that bad, but it just kind of is sometimes. So the one thing I am noticing is that these share code. So I'm just going to put an OR here. And the OR should run that just fine. Yeah, I might swap that to a switch, because honestly, that's actually kind of what switch is made for. East, and actually the nice thing about a switch here is that it'll allow me to do a little bit of error checking. Specifically, I can say default there we go. I can log an error and we can see exactly what happened and then kind of figure out why things are going so terribly wrong. Sorry, dog. One sec. Alright, so let's see if this works. This should do the trick, because honestly, I don't see why not. Control cannot fall through. I'm pretty sure control does not fall through, so I don't know what you're talking about. Specifically, oh, okay, my default statement, actually. In case of error, I'm just going to return, I don't know, I have to return something, right? I'll just return null, actually. That is a good error return. Alright. Oh, I guess the other obvious stupid thing here is that I actually need to make the grid nodes that I want. So for example, let's just say I'm going to have I think grid node. I'm tempted to start tagging some of these too, just to make sure that they don't have anything silly attached to them, but I don't care quite that much. Alright, so we have a grid node here. I'm going to put another one down. One sec. Need to Alright guys, we're coming up on the end. As much as I would love to keep working on this today, just stay home and not go to work. It's not really an option. So, if you guys have any questions, by the way, feel free. Toss them my way. Oh my god, so many people spamming. Whatever. I just have to know that I won't get caught by the same thing. I'm kind of curious what people are getting caught by, too. Like, I'm looking at this, and it's just like, really? This is all it takes to, you know, get people to, like, not just click on the link. I assume clicking on the link does not give them all your information. But, I mean, look at this. Like, you slap a couple streamers' faces on the top, and then you're like, hey, look, it's gamer-oriented, and suddenly everybody's, like, doing the whole registration thing. That seems silly. Who knows? Maybe by clicking that link, I just spammed a bunch of people. I don't know. I doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free. Toss them my way. I am more than happy to answer what I can. I'm going to keep putting a couple more grid nodes down in the meantime, just so we get a feel for how this is going to work and look. There we go. And I think I'm going to specify... I kind of want to... Let's see. Where's my UI? My UI is way the heck up there. Right? Yeah. UI is monstrous. So I think I'm going to specify Z forward as a good... yeah, I think Z forward is a good way to specify direction here. So that's going to be north. Also, the other thing I just realized that I'm going to be causing a lot of trouble with is I need some if statements on all of these. So if the north link is not null, and if the east link is not null. I just noticed all the errors in my log and kind of went, what? Oh, if the south link is not null, and luckily this is code that won't run in the final version, so all these if statements are completely for my benefit, because now it'll let me see little colored lines. Alright. Alright. So, looks good. Let's just get the references all tied in, and that should be the end of it. Just want to see some of these arrows point to each other. So, let's see. So, this one, okay. You should be the east link here, and you should be the south link for here. And this one is going to be the north link. I need to figure out a better way to tie these together, just in case, but I can figure that out at another time. So there's the east link, so this one, let's see. There's our west link. And you can see that the lines are starting to appear in the editor. It's a little difficult to see because they're really freaking thin, but you can see that the editor lines are actually appearing. And that if I grab the party and say your initial, let's say the initial node is this one. So, there we go. So now it won't actually let me walk off the map. Ooh. Interesting, but it does have my directions backwards. So if I'm facing west right now, interesting. So I am walking backwards on the grid. Like my north and south seem to be working just fine. But my east and west, I think, are backwards. Ah, and that is because if we think about this, the directions the direction I'm facing versus the direction that the next node is coming from are actually reversed. So if I'm facing east, I should not be grabbing the east node. I should actually be grabbing the west node, and vice versa. If I'm facing north, I should be grabbing somebody's south node, not the other way around. So I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to call it after that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away. Also, if you guys are here for the first time, have never seen me work on this game before, or interested in seeing me work on it more, there's a follow button beneath where you will get to see... Interesting. I'm facing north, and okay. I need to figure out what's going on here. Something's being weird. Either way, if this is something you're interested in seeing, hitting the follow button below lets you know when I come online, and you can kind of watch me work as I go. And this is being really bizarre. Oh well. We'll figure this out later. I gotta get going to work. Have I written shaders before, and am I planning on doing some custom shaders? Yes, to both of those. As Mental asks, yes, I have some acuity with writing shaders, and I was definitely interested in getting something like a leaf shader going so that the leaves would rustle slightly in the wind. Neat stuff like that, which should be not too difficult for us to implement, and shouldn't be too burdensome on the GPU either. Black Soups, yeah, I used to work in the C4 engine in C++. The engine has unfortunately been, I won't call it abandoned, I think a better word would be discontinued. And as it's been discontinued and the person who was helping me with that project was unfortunately unable to continue helping me, I stepped away from that project for a while. Shariah, I work at a little educational game startup called Signition. You won't really find much information about us, but we're out there kind of doing what we can to make educational games interesting for kids and helpful for teachers. So we'll see how that goes. Still working on it. We're actually hitting a bit of a release this week, so my schedule's been a little crazy. For those of you who want to continue watching as well, I've been doing morning streams, and I will probably continue doing morning streams starting at 8 a.m. and going till 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, although Mondays might be a little iffy because it really depends on who I'm driving with and what my schedule is like on Mondays. But every other day, Tuesday through Friday, I should be here from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Yeah, educational games is a fun sector. I can definitely see where a lot of work needs to be done in that part of the industry, and at the same time, it's also something that it's an interesting field to work within. There are a lot of constraints when you think about an educational game because you have to teach a certain concept. Teaching something like, I don't know, like fraction addition, right? That's a difficult thing to teach. There's a lot of little bits and pieces, and you have to make sure that the kids are getting each of the jumps between concepts. And that can be difficult. It adds a lot of constraints to your game design. And so luckily we have a great designer with us who worked on the Diablo series. So we've got a really good set of experience with the team. We just have to execute. Anyway, I gotta get running to work. Thank you guys for joining me again. As I said before, hit the follow button if you want to see more of this in the mornings. Otherwise, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.